Just 9 days left for state education agencies to comply with the new Department of Education order requiring proof the schools do not promote what the administration believes are illegal diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, or they risk losing federal funding. And Erica Meltzer is a national editor for Chalkbeat. She joins us now live to discuss. Erica, glad to have you in. Welcome. This really sort of tracks with the White House's strategy here. First off, can you tell us what DEI looks like in the classroom to begin with for those who practice it?
This can cover a wide range of practices, and different people have different definitions. But some of the examples that you might see under this umbrella would be making extra recruitment efforts to find teacher candidates of color to help diversify the teacher workforce, or it might be teacher training where teachers are asked to consider maybe their relative privilege or implicit biases that they might be bringing to the classroom. And these are things that some people feel are really important actions to address past inequalities, and that some people feel like, particularly the administration, feel like have gone too far, and that are based on racial stereotypes, or that actually discriminate against white teachers or students.
What actually is taught in classrooms where DEI is observed?
That's not really a thing. Mm-hmm. The administration is trying to make it sound as if DEI is an actual teaching practice. But at the same time, they've also clarified teaching Black history is not DEI. Teaching American history, including unpleasant parts of American history, is not DEI. But there's been just a lot of confusion because the administration has not been really clear and specific about what it is they want schools to stop doing. And that's one of the reasons why I think compliance feels really problematic for a lot of states and school districts. They feel like they're doing things to benefit students. They feel like they're following the law, and the administration has its own interpretation of the law, but it's really fuzzy what exactly it is that they want schools to stop doing.
Like so much of what President Trump and the administration has done, there is a looming big questions about the legality of this. Here in Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson says he will sue the Trump administration. Illinois says it will continue to use diversity here. Tell me about the fight and how big it actually is.
And this is really like the crux of the fight between the Trump administration and Democratic-led states. Who is going to get to decide? And all this federal billions of dollars in federal funding are at stake. A lot of states are reviewing this and questioning whether it is legal to require them to sign this compliance document. States already regularly certify that they follow civil rights law. The administration has sort of tacked on an additional interpretation that's contested and hasn't really been put through the court system to determine, do judges agree with the way the Trump administration is interpreting civil rights law? This afternoon, New York State actually said, we're not going to sign this. We don't think that we have to sign this. And we'll be watching to see if other states follow suit.
Well, the funding that we're talking about from the federal government amounts generally about 10% for school districts across the country. But for poorer districts, it is a bigger percentage. Talk to me before we go here about the expected impact that you think all of this will have on students here in Chicago and across the country.
Yeah, Chicago gets about $1.3 billion in federal aid, and that's about 13% of their budget. And as I'm sure many of your viewers know, the school district here has a lot of financial challenges. And so I'm sure that money would be missed if it went away. And the state of Illinois gets about $6.5 billion in federal assistance. And so the state would also be, I think, challenged to make up the difference if that money went away.
We'll see how this fight ends up. Erica Meltzer at Chalkbeat, good to have you in. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay.